firsthand.
I haven't talked to her in years, and I remember when I first met her, I was like 20, 21, and she brought me to her apartment with some friends from the movie theater, and her apartment had like fucking dildos everywhere and fucking handcuffs all the like. I became good friends with that chick.
Yeah, she's cool chick.
I hope we're recording. I really want to throw that story in.
I don't know. Dude, I had my first threesome when I was 16, so I don't...
I just I imagine this night happening and you getting drunk on a bottle of Jack Daniels, wearing a trench coat, going out in the middle of a cemetery in a rainstorm, going, "No!"
I can remember after word got out in high school that I'd had a threesome. This guy who will remain nameless, he just came up to me, like, he was like a grade or two below me, and he's like, "Hey man, I don't have the experience you have." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know where we're going with this." And he's like, "Do women do different women taste differently?"
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, "Of course they do."
Jesus fucking Christ!
Like,
What am
the
I?
fact
What am
that
I
you're
doing
asking
here?
me that.
I
But
gotta
I mean,
go.
the fact that someone would even ask that question. I had a friend. He was with this girl for years, and he's like, "Dude, I swear she tastes like butterscotch." And all I could picture was her taking a Werther's. So I picture this poor girl just shoving a whole pack of Werther's up her junk before she comes over. And then being like, "All right, now I can pull this out and
It's
we
like
can get
being
down to business."
It's like getting your hand stuck in Grandma's candy jar.
The originals, not the sugar free.
Girlfriend tasted like lemon heads. It was weird.
What's the worst thing that someone's ever used on you? Not in you or anything like that, but something that someone brought to the bedroom that didn't go the way it was planned, like a food or something. Mine's simple. Have you ever heard of liquid lollipop?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as a teenager, these girls thought it would be a great idea, since I'm part werewolf, to cover me in liquid lollipop and eat it off me.
Oh, gross!
Well, guess what happens when liquid lollipop hardens?
That's so gross. Oh,
So I had to cut like chunks of chest hair and other hair off of my body thanks to this concrete liquid lollipop. What about you, Doug?
The more I'm listening to you tell that story, and I had one in mind, and then the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I really have a lot of deviant, fucked up one night stand, like weird shit happening to me stories, man. And
Me too. But I didn't go that route.
Mine's not like
Pantera overrated. Go ahead. Anyway, go ahead.
Mine's not an item, more so an action.
Intrigued.
All right. So, without going into names and too many details, I was stationed overseas. We had a new girl come. This is right after I got divorced. She was way younger than me, but legal age. Military.
Wait.
What?
You were married?
I knew that was coming. That was coming.
So she came over. She was a reservist, and before she came over, she was getting a massage license, and she was working on that. So when she gets over to England, she wants to continue, and she starts offering everybody at the command, both male and female, free massages. And since she was a reservist, she got to live out in town. She didn't have to stay on base because reservists are treated special. So she invites us all over, and she does massages on everybody, and everybody's going, and I'm last. And everybody was like, "Well, we're all going to leave now." And she's like, "Paul, do you want a massage?" And I'm like, "Sure." I know which way the wind's pointing now. I know how this is about to go down. So everybody leaves, and then we do the massage. She's like, "If you want to get fully unclothed, I'm totally cool with that." And I'm like, "Dope. This is awesome." So the massage goes in, and as soon as she has me flip over, it's not in this like a seedy massage parlor. This is a white girl in an apartment, and we start going to town and having sex. So we start having sex on the regular. I don't want to say we're dating because we're not dating. We're just meeting up to have sex. But on date number 3, I believe, is when things start to change, and she releases to me that her kink is she likes hardcore physical violence during sex, like punching in the, like choking, but not like light choking, like choking. I'm not about that lifestyle. So I continue to fuck her for like 10 or 15 more times, right? And I'm like getting black
You guys
eyes.
cracking me 13 to 14 more times. I'm out of here.
So I'm like,
I swear to God, I'm out of here.
So I'm going into work with like black eyes and busted lips and shit, right? Everybody in my command thought I was like in Fight Club or I was getting into bar brawls all the time. Like I got talked to about it. And finally I'm talking to one of my he's still one of my best friends in the world. His name is John, funny enough, because he reminds me a lot of John, personality-wise. And he's like, "Are you serious, dude? She's into beat." I'm like, "Dude, look at me. She's kicking the shit out of me every time we have sex. She wants me to do it to her, but I can't do it, like, because I had that Anglo-Saxon don't hit a woman upbringing. You know what I mean?" And finally, I was just like, okay. I was like, "John, I think I'm gonna break up with her." And John's like super supportive, like, "Fuck yeah, man. You don't need to be involved in that. That's just weird." So I go over. I tell her, "Hey, we're done. We're breaking up." And she's like, "Okay, well, can we have sex one more time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that seems reasonable."
And she beat the fuck out of you.
And she did.
Reasonable? You said
She put me in the hospital.
reasonable? You're a fucking idiot, man.
So he ends up in fucking traction.
Yeah. So, well, this is great because this is not where the story ends. So 2 days goes by, and my buddy John shows up to work with a black eye and a busted lip.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm like,
There's the rub.
I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he's like, "Nothing." I'm like, "What happened to that?" He's like, "I got in a fight last night." And I'm like, "Uh-huh. Yeah, right. Okay, cool, whatever." So she had some stuff at my barracks on base. And this is like a couple days later. She comes over and she walks in to my place, my barracks room. John lives on the other side of me in the barracks. It's like a hotel, but not as nice. So she's in talking to me, and she's like, "You know, I really wish you'd reconsider. Like, I miss you, and you know, even if
miss beating the fuck out of you. I really miss that tiny dick, but I miss punching it more.
Even if we're not having sex, you know, I would still like to hang out with you and be friends with you because we always had a good time." And I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking about like, I know you fucked John. I know, and I told John, I confronted John straight up about it 2 days ago. I'm like, "Dude, if you're fucking this girl, just tell me and it's cool. I'm not going to be mad," because we weren't dating. Like, I didn't think of her as, like, you know, my property. And he just would vehemently denied that he ever slept with her. "I would never do that to you, brother. I would never do that to you. I'd never sleep with a girl you slept with." And
Man,
I'm like,
that's so
I'm
fucking
like,
weird when people do that.
I'm like, uh-huh. I'm like,
I would
uh-huh.
like to think. I would like to think you wouldn't purposely buy something to call it your piece of property, knowing that it's going to beat the shit out of you continuously. That doesn't sound like it's your property. It sounds like its property.
So
I
anyway,
was just about to say, girls really don't like to be referred to as property by anyone.
Holy Christ.
Just know
She
that
sounds like a
Hidden
even if
secret?
you're married.
hidden secret, bitches
No,
love that shit.
no.
Anyway,
Oh, Jesus.
so
Jesus
she's
fucking
in my
Christ.
place.
Well, there goes all of our female viewers. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you guys later.
I would
Good
like to
night.
apologize to both of our female viewers. I'm sorry if I've offended you.
Yeah, both of them.
If you didn't leave because of episode 7, the dead girlfriend episode, congratulations.
All right. So-
Sayonara.
"Hey, girl, it's done." I was like, "There's no hard feelings. Me and you could still be friends. If you want to go do stuff together, that's fine. It's just I don't like the physical violence in the bedroom. It's not me, and I'm not going to pretend it's me just to get laid anymore." So she's like, "I completely understand that, and I respect that you're telling me straight up." She's like, "Okay, well then I guess I head out." And I'm like, "Oh, where are you going tonight?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just going to head home and hang out at the house." And I was like, "Okay, bye." So she leaves. And I'm sitting there for like 15 minutes just watching TV, surfing the web. And then I look over at I had like a little table when you walked into my room. Her car keys are sitting on it. So I grab the car keys, walk out my door, walk around the building to John's room. I hear, "Oh, shut up, shush, just go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. And I'm like, I'm outside smiling. I think this is hilarious. He thinks I'm going to be mad. He opens up the door with a towel wrapped around his waist, sweating, and I'm like, "What'd you do? Just get done watching Cops?" And he's like, "Oh, I just I just got out of the shower, man. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, hey, I know you said that you weren't sleeping with insert girl's name here, but she just left her car keys in my barracks room, and she told me she was going home. So if she's here, I feel like she would need these to get home. And he's just looking at me like, I'll make sure she gets them. And I'm like, you asshole. Side note, I slept with her New Year's Eve later on, a couple months down the road.
I have a question about that story, if I will.
Go ahead.
What was John black?
No, he was white from New York.
Then why would he be sweating watching Cops? I'm confused.
I know. Before you continue, I got that joke. That
Step
was,
Brothers
and I didn't get to finish it up. I know you put your nuts on my drum set.
Yeah.
I was watching Cops, and I know Cops comes on at 4:00 in the afternoon. That's a Step Brothers joke.
It's a
I
Step
got
Brothers
that.
reference. Yeah.
Okay, well, right over my head. Oh boy, I don't even know what to say to that.
So
I want to hear your story, John.
What story?
You've got to have some fucked up sex story.
Yeah, don't fuck in the shower or water. Cum turns to super glue when it hits water. It's very fucking bad.
Everybody knows that. You got to go better than that.
Well, yeah. Well, I had to find out the fucking hard way, and I'm never doing it again. That fucking sucks. Dude, I am so vanilla when it comes to sex.
Wait. Where did you get,
boring, basic bitch, fucking white girl. When it comes to sex, I have no crazy sex stories.
So you're a pumpkin spice latte, is what you're saying.
I am a pumpkin spice latte in bed.
Has anybody here ever paid for a sexual act?
No, I have not.
Many times.
John? Hand job?
No.
No? Okay.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Unless dinner and a movie or drugs or alcohol count.
If that counts, then yes. I had a 4-year relationship with that.
Were the drugs purchased with the intent of sex?
At certain parties, yes.
This is so fucked up.
I mean, it was roof and all. So I mean, I don't know.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at, John.
I roofied myself once.
Take advantage of yourself.
Yeah, it was pretty easy to do.
Similar but different, Bob. I've taken Viagra to jerk off.
Really?
Hell yeah.
Are you joking or are you being serious?
Yeah, I'm being serious. I've done that, yeah.
I've taken Cialis multiple times.
I've never taken any of those kind of pills.
Oh, they work really well.
They work.
Very well.
I'm sure they do. I had a friend who 3 of you know, 2 of you know.
Oh, Doug doesn't know the friend, but I do. Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. But his name will be left out. But he was at my house on copious amounts of ecstasy and Viagra.
It's
a good combination. A really good combination, actually. You don't really need them together, but
no. Still. He went home to his wife, and they had a 4-post bed, and he ended up bending the bed in half because he was pulling so hard down that he literally destroyed their bed. And then he came back to my house and was crying in my shower for almost an hour and a half. It had worn off. The ecstasy part had anyway. And he was on the downside of the roll.
I've had sex on LSD before. That was an experience.
Me too. I mean, I've never done LSD.
Had sex on Molly. That was fucking awesome.
Not that I would know from personal experience, but I hear sex on cocaine is fucking amazing.
Man, if you don't got coke, dick.
Never did cocaine. Never did cocaine.
Not even a line. Never a little bump. Never a little toot.
Not my thing.
I can say that I've probably had it mixed in with ecstasy as part of
absolutely, and heroin. I mean, they
and heroin and mescaline and everything.
Yeah, I find it atrocious.
As far as by itself, no.
Yeah, I find it atrocious. I hate it completely. I just really enjoy the way it smells.
Yeah, I like the way it tastes.
That's how I feel about almost all opiates.
The only way I know that I had ever done heroin with some ecstasy was there was an old saying, you throw up, you blow up. And I remember taking these Mitsubishis, and they were like wood brown, man. And I'm sitting there having a conversation I'm having with you guys right now, and I'm like, blah, 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 and then just, You know,
It's that brown
yeah.
sugar, baby.
I was like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck just happened? They're like, oh yeah, these got a lot of H in them. I'm like, yeah, thanks for the warning.
So I don't know.
Yeah, if you're not into it, nothing make you nauseous.
Oh my god, dude. I thought I was gonna fucking die.
So I don't know how many other people have noticed, but Bob's background is really triggering me. Seeing one of like the least favorite things to ever see as a Mario Kart player in the
I
background.
know, that's why I have it there.
That's all. I love it. I
Sounds
love
like
it.
I'm all about making people feel uncomfortable.
Oh, he's got bullet too.
We got
There you
bullet
go.
Bob.
Shit, now my anxiety just peaked.
We used to call the blue shell.
Bullets.
Like, we got an N64 in England and played it nonstop with 4 people, and we would call the blue shell the "Where's Your God" shell, because every time we would deploy it, we would just shout, "Where's your God now?" And if you were in first place, whenever you heard somebody say that, you'd start tapping on the brakes and let second place pass you up real quick.
Where's your
That's-
God now?
That's fucking great.
Me and him didn't talk for 10 years either.
Me and you?
Yeah.
Was it 10 years?
Yeah.
I lost track
It
of
was a
time.
while.
It was roughly a decade. Well, no, it was more than that because Angel's going to be 10 next weekend.
I think the only people I talked to for like the last couple of years that I remember talking to was my neighbor and the people I worked with, and that was it.
Because I think She Who Shall Not Be Named, that whole thing happened in 2009.
The hallway that we tried to both walk down? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Did you feel like a hot dog in a hallway?
No, I felt like a piece of shit, like within the snap of a finger is what I felt like.
I would just like to say, Bob and Doug, I don't know if it's all the drugs I did or all the alcohol, but I literally have no idea what the fuck you two are talking about that caused a rift between you two. It was so long ago that I don't remember any of it.
I will tell a quick abbreviated version that involves no names and no way of people
If it's,
knowing.
if it's okay with Bob, if it's okay with
Oh,
Bob,
yeah,
I don't want to.
yeah,
I don't want to reopen any old wounds.
Remember the picture of me and you from 10 years ago that you messaged me?
Me?
John did.
Oh, okay.
That was the night that I almost hit Doug over this whole scenario. That was the same evening.
Bob was dating a girl that you do know, and a lot of us know, and he was dating her for quite a while. It was his main girlfriend for quite a long time. And at one point during the relationship, they had lived with me twice at one point. And I believe it was the second time they lived with me, she inferred to me while he was shopping that she found me attractive and that she could see something happening with us one day if it ever came to that. And it, I don't know, in the moment I brushed it off. Anyway, cut 2 years later, they're broken up. Bob, when Bob was moving out, he made it a point to tell me, like, I don't give a shit what you do in life. Just promise me you won't try and sleep with her. And I got so fucked up over the years on drugs that's exactly what I tried to do. End of story.
And that night when I was out with you, I had drank way too much whiskey. And I saw Doug, and it was just a reason for me to get in his face because I was drunk and he was there.
And I don't know if Skylar remembers enough to where he can attest to it, but I was still so fucked up at the point. I was fucked up at that particular point when we were going to see Jimmy's Chicken Shack that night and then coming by to see you, John. I don't think I'd had anything in my system in like a day, so I was starting to DT a little bit, and I think I was so oblivious to everything going on around me. I was nervous that I saw Jess, and I'm like, oh shit, she hates my gut. She ain't gonna want to talk to me. But I was happy to see you, and then I saw Dongo, and Donko wanted to kill me, and I'm like, fuck, he doesn't want to see me. And then Bob just kept staring at me, but I didn't clue any of it together because I needed to get that feeling of the itchiness, that flu-like. That soreness when you don't have your dope. I wanted to get that, so I wasn't even paying attention. I mean, and somebody pulled me aside. I think it might have been Bob and said, like, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Something to that effect. And I think I ended up leaving just completely and going home. But I don't really recall. I don't even know why I got on that topic.
Yeah. It was me, and it was something to that effect. And then Skylar's like, we should go. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea because I don't want to go to jail. And I mean, it's not that I wanted to hurt you, but I get it. I totally get it. When I drink that much whiskey, I kind of just look for a fight. It's just kind of in my nature.
No, but I everything shitty that I did, and everything that I had coming to me, I had coming. I have no problem acknowledging my fault in any of it and acknowledging what needed to happen.
Now, you were just talking about DTs, and I've never experienced detox. I mean, if I ever had to stop taking my anxiety medication, I obviously would. but I can say, watching my father, who is probably the biggest alcoholic I've ever known, watching him DT, I can see how bad it is for someone else. Because
Not fun.
and I'm sure it's different on opioids than it is off alcohol, but just watching him detox off alcohol was fucking horrible. Because he would go into shakes and be throwing up, and
I've known people who've had that with alcohol. Me, I don't think I drank long enough to experience. I mean, I drank hard, but the doctor telling me how bad I was health-wise was enough to like jolt that shit out of my system immediately. Like I quit cold turkey. However, the last drug I ever did was Suboxone. It's what the doctors ended up putting me on, and I ended up being able to maintain some sort of a life on it. I was still able to feel high, but still able to get up and go to work and get shit done. And I lived like that for like 5-6 years, just taking 8 milligrams of Suboxone after I got out of work every day. And when I
get up Suboxone could be just as hard though.
And that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
When I left Florida, I told my pain management doctor, like, I think I'm going to wean myself off of it. Like, I'm moving out to LA. I don't think I'm going to need it. I'll be fine. I'm going to see how I can do without it. And he said, "Cool, man. Here's your last prescription." He gave me 3 prescriptions, and he's like, "You'll be able to fill these at any Walgreens, CVS, wherever you get your prescriptions filled at." I said, "Okay, cool." And I already had 2 boxes of like, I can't remember how, I think it was 25 sublingual film strips you got per box. And I think I had like 25 of them left. And I just took them with me and was cutting them in half as I needed them, because the drive there, I hadn't experienced the change in weather in a long time. So it kind of fucked with my body a little bit. And when I realized I wasn't going to be in LA and I was moving back up here, I got up here and I realized, okay, fuck, I'm going to have to find a way to get these scripts filled. Like, I don't know anybody around here who can get me anything, so I got to figure out how to get these filled, because I only got a couple left, and nobody up here would fill the prescription, because up here they treat Suboxone the way you're supposed to treat it, the way you're supposed to treat methadone. They treat it as, you come to us, you pay the money at the clinic, you take it there, we'll administer it to you, and we'll do it in doses, and we'll make sure you get taken care of and you won't get addicted to that. That's not what Florida did. Florida kept me on that shit. Well, it's not Vicodin. He doesn't want to be on that anymore, so it's got to be better than that, right? And don't get me wrong, it did help me function, but when I got up here and realized I wasn't going to be able to get any more of it, I had to go cold turkey. I had no choice, and it was, I'm not bullshitting. It was a month of not being able to sleep more than an hour, constantly waking up, clutching my chest, cold sweating throughout the night, getting the heat. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. It was like a hurricane or a blizzard just coursed through my body. But after a month month and a half, I started falling asleep better. I started feeling better. Like, I didn't have, John, oddly enough, is the one who talked to me. And it was, what is it? 1 is too many, 1,000's not enough. That coupled with NA just kind of kept my mind out of it, and the more I went on, the more I didn't really crave it anymore. The more it got out of my system, the more I just didn't give a fuck about it anymore. I realized it really is a lot up here. It's physical, but it's a lot up here.
There's a lot of physical, but there's a lot of mental, definitely, for that. People can hear about withdrawals and DTs, but until you've actually experienced it, you literally have no idea how painful it is. Like, this is what turns people with addiction into monsters, why they steal, why they deceive, because you are in so much pain. It feels like your insides are dying. It feels like you're dying, and the only thing that's going to save it, and the only thing that's going to make you feel better and save you, is your fix. Now, when you get to that point, you become so fucking desperate that you will literally do just about anything to not feel that way. Can you imagine physically feeling that way? That, like, you would literally do anything not to feel that way.
The only thing I can personally compare that to, is I always say you've never tripped until you've had a bad trip. And I remember having my second bad trip, because you're not smart enough to stop after the first one, and literally just thinking, the only way I'm going to get out of this is if I just kill myself. I mean, that's how bad it was. Like, it was. I'm like, if I just die, this will be over. and I can be done with this, because we're talking like a 12-hour horrible trip. It just would not go away. I mean, legitimately, I remember so clearly seeing myself from like a third quarter perspective, standing next to my girlfriend who was crying. And then I snapped back into actual reality, and I was standing in the kitchen of my friend's house holding a knife to my wrist. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I mean, that's just how gone my brain was at that moment.
I've always wanted to try DMT, and I've always been fascinated by the idea that when we die or our heartbeat ceases to exist, that our brains start to flood our system with DMT naturally and giving us that euphoric. And I've always wanted to know what that was like, the way people describe it. And the girl that I tried to sleep with, that was with Bob, got me into something. It was like was it K2, K12, the spice? It was something similar to that. Is where she turned me onto it. And they had these glass countertops, like the Indian gas stations with like all the bongs and the headpieces and shit. They had just troves of all these little Ziploc packets with really cool printed artwork on the front, and one of them was like knockoffs of like Darkwing Duck or DuckTales, and there was one of the Mad Hatter from Batman. And I said, "Well, what's the difference?" And he's like, "Oh, each one of them has a different flavor in that, and they give you different feelings." And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And she described it to me as, "You want to do weed, but you won't do weed because of drug tests. You can do this because this is like synthetic weed, and it won't show up in a drug test because they're not looking for these chemical compounds." And what it was they were taking chopped up pieces of earth. It looked like potpourri. It was actually labeled on the package, not for human consumption, and it said like potpourri and shit, and it looked like potpourri, little twigs, little like twigs and sticks and stems and shit like that. And it smelled fruity, and you grind it up like weed, and you put it in a pipe and you smoke it, however you do it. And I did it with her one time, and I got the giggles. Like, I laughed my tits off for like 30 minutes and just could not stop laughing at everything around me. And I said, "I love this shit. I got to go buy some more for myself." And I went and bought the Mad Hatter bag, and each bag was like $15 a bag, and it was like an eighth. And like not even an eighth, it was like a gram per bag for like $15. And they really treated it like it was a monopoly on legal drugs. And I remember buying like 3 of those bags and taking one home. And I was living by myself at the time. Neither of you were in my life. Paul was overseas. I was completely alone, completely lost in myself, addicted. And I took this shit. The only person I was talking to on a friend basis was my neighbor Mike, who was he was a mechanic, constantly smoking pot, riding a motorbike and shit.
Love Mike. Mike's so great. Mike's such good people.
Mike had tons of cats and dogs and shit. He had a beautiful backyard. "Hey man, you want to come up after work and get high? Got some really good weed, brother." And I would just hang out with Mike and get stoned. And one night I was by myself and I had nothing, and I decided to grind up this Mad Hatter shit and smoke it. Now, you remember when you walk into the house, our house, through the front door, I had the chair. Before you took a right to go down the hallway to the bedrooms, there was the chair there by the couch. Yeah. I sat in that chair, took a hit, and I sat down, and it was dark. It was nighttime. The lights in the kitchen were on, or in the dining room. And I was sitting in
that dark blood-colored dining room
that Jess painted. And I was sitting in a dark house with only that place lit up. And I'm sitting there holding myself like this, and I'm looking around after one hit. And I don't know how long it's been. Like, all of a sudden I zoned out and I came out of it, and I'm like, time stopped. And I'm looking around and I'm like, it's really fucking dark in here except right over there. But I can't get out of this chair to get to the light. Why am I stuck in the dark? And I'm not bullshitting with you. This didn't feel like a drug trip. This honestly felt like I was completely in control and I was conscious, but I honestly believed I had died. And I was stuck in like a limbo purgatory, and I didn't know if I was going up or down. I genuinely believed that my house, that chair, was where I had to wait to meet my caseworker from fucking Beetlejuice. I'm not kidding. And the more I sat there looking around, I started asking, "Hello, is there anybody that's going to help me?" And I started crying. I don't. And let me tell you something. I remember this so clearly. It's insane how, of all the shit that I've done, this I remember the clearest.
Oh, you always do.
I'm sitting here, And it feels like an eternity because I don't have a concept of time anymore. I really feel like I've been there. I could have been there for 100 years. I didn't know. And I start crying. And the only thing that ran through my head was, I'm okay with dying, but I wish I would have gotten to say goodbye to my mother, my brother, my father, everybody that I love that I didn't get to say. That fucking destroyed me. And I sat crying for who knows how long. And I finally came out of it. And I felt like a weight lift, and I kind of felt a little bit of my consciousness level out. And I took my hands off the armrest, and I just stood up, and I'm like, holy fuck. And I looked at the bag in my hand, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And then I got curious. I'm like, I need to know how long that was, because that was unlike anything I've experienced. So I tried it one more time a week later, and I recorded it. Now, I don't remember that. I really don't remember that time. But it was 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. It was.
I know. I've heard this.
Minutes. Now, when that
everybody I know who's trying this shit has been like, it lasts like 5 minutes, but it feels like a fucking eternity. Yeah,
fuck that, dude.
When that shit happened the second time, when I watched the video and saw that the second time, I took all the bags that I had. I walked over to Mike's house and I said, "Hey, you love doing LSD all the time and smoking pot and trying shit." I said, this is what I experienced. I told him everything. I said, this is what I experienced on it. I can't do this anymore. I won't do this anymore. And I don't want to waste it because I did spend money on it. And I know you like trying shit. And I handed it to him. And a week later, I went and saw him. And I said, so what'd you think? And he said, oh, man, I told my girlfriend exactly what you told me. And she said, yeah, we're not doing that. Good idea.
I can remember clearly my first bad trip. John, do you remember the space bong?
Yes. Yes, okay, I do.
No name.
So M's space bong apparatus, he used to call it. So the apparatus.
And you know how he would bring it like a fucking salesman. So this was like the night he had first built that fucking thing. So I took 3 hits of very strong LSD, and you know how that thing was like a 2-gallon bucket, right? And then you would do a nose hit of that 2 gallons and fill it again until the bowl was gone. So I did 2 bowls back to back to back to back to back. And then everything just stopped. And I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. And I'm like, uh-oh. Did I just break something? You know, like, did something just shut off? And then I remember somebody say, what did you say? And then I answered them, and nothing. And I'm like, so I'm thinking, what the fuck? And then somebody says, what the fuck, what? And I'm like, I'm so confused. And literally everything I'm thinking, I'm saying out loud, but the stuff I think I'm saying, I'm not saying. And that was the worst. Because I was just trying to figure out what I was actually saying and what I wasn't saying. And some of the shit I wasn't saying was fucking horrible shit. Like, I'm gonna kill that guy tonight. You know? And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh, nothing. Yeah, it was really bad.
My favorite drug of all time, obviously, I would say psilocybin mushrooms. And that's something that every few years I will do. I mean, I'm microdosed on. I mean, I allegedly microdosed on a
You did it episode. On a podcast. Yeah.
Allegedly.
No, they were shiitake.
But my favorite part about taking psilocybin mushrooms is like right at the beginning when it hits you and you're full throttle. My brain is always going faster than my mouth can move. So when I try to speak, it's like fucking gibberish because my brain is like, but my mouth can't keep up, and I'm always like, oh, that's my favorite thing.
It's like
world.
you're redlining and you need to shift gears, but the clutch doesn't work.
Right.
Like, come on,
right.
Come on.
It's like watching our podcast and watching your feed catch up to your audio.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug. Now we know what happens when John goes full throttle.
Full throttle.
Full throttle.
Do you guys remember that guy? There was a guy I knew through the mall, and I'm pretty sure you got not through the mall, through the movie theater, but I'm sure you guys knew him through like downtown and shit. I think his name was. He was a tall, bald guy with like a big. It almost looked like somebody just mashed his face. His face was all puffy, and his face was covered in piercings. He had shit everywhere, like hooks hanging off his ears, his septum, his eyebrows. Maybe you guys didn't know him.
You literally just described half the people I knew in the 90s.
So
I knew that there was one night I did LSD. The reason I bring this up is this: everybody that I knew that knew this dude, like, knew him as just a weird dude because he walked around dressed normally, but just his face was like a fucking circus sideshow, dude. It was insane to me how many piercings he had all over his face. One night I did LSD and decided I didn't want to stay at my friend's house when I did the LSD, and I wanted to drive home. My friend was living by where John is now, so I drove from there to my house off Alameda on LSD. Halfway between that point, it really kicked in for me, and this is when the Liquid Cafe was still open. And I stopped downtown because I couldn't handle driving, and it was a Saturday night, and I wandered into the Liquid Cafe, and one of my friends was bar backing that night, and he saw how fucked up I was, and while we're sitting there talking, it's a busy night, and people are doing, like, I think it was like open mic night or some shit, and there's people out on the sidewalk sitting at tables, drinking coffee, drinking beer. While this shit's going on and we're talking and he's trying to corral me into the back to get me food and get me sobered up, these two drunk, the fucking cop car comes up to the side. These two cops get out of the cop car and these two drunk guys jump into the cop car and take the fuck off around the block. And you just see two cops running after their car. And I looked at and I'm like, is this really happening right now?
Is this happening?
He says, yeah, we need to get you in the back. And as we start to walk in the back, this kid and I knew with the piercings walks in a fucking tuxedo, and I looked at him and he says, hey Doug, how you doing? And I said, where the fuck did you come from? He's like, oh yeah, you like it? I was at my buddy's wedding this afternoon. You like it? And I'm like, what the fuck? And as I'm saying this and he's trying to pull me back from around the side, the two drunk guys come with the cop car and the lights are flashing and they run into a fucking light pole in the front of the Liquid Cafe. It was one of the most fucked up experiences of my life, dude. Oh my God.
I'm telling you, the weirdest shit happens when you're on acid, even shit that's like really
in
happening.
the real world, yeah.
That actually happens.
Yeah,
None of that
actually happens. Like, I remember I was on a bunch of acid and I was going to this girl's house who I later lived with. We were just really good friends. But I'm driving on acid, which, for the record, is a really bad idea. And
Don't do it, kids.
yeah, don't do it at all. And so I'm driving on acid, and I'm going out to 8th Street in Lehigh, and I see one of her roommates walking down the street, pushing a baby in like a flowing wedding dress, and I was like, I mean, like, the wind's blowing, and I'm like, okay, I gotta ask when I got in there if that happened or not, because I don't know. And so I asked them, and they're like, yeah, she was trying on her wedding dress. I'm like, okay, that's real. I'm like, okay, second question. And they're like, yeah, what? And I'm like, are you guys shaving that dog right now?
What?
And because they had a dog on the ground shaving it. And I'm like, are you shaving this dog? Is this really happening? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I don't know what the fuck is real and what's not right now.
It's a blue rose, Coop. It's a blue rose.
Oof.
I'm telling you, like, I'm sitting here listening to these drug stories, and it's not something I can relate to that well. Like, I experimented when I was in Florida and college, but, like, I'm realizing, listening to your guys' stories, it's drumming up that my biggest vice is sex. Because, like, the way you guys are telling drug stories, I'm thinking of, like, what story do I have that's similar to that? And it's like, it all involves sex.
This girl beat the shit out of me, and it was great.
Yeah, and I, like, all of you telling your stories, like, it reminds me of 4th of July 2010, when I had sex with 3 different women at 3 different times throughout the day, completely unrelated to one another.
I totally did that in 2010 too, but we'll leave that off the podcast.
So
my brother is a bald, chubby David Duchovny in real life.
It's kind of. I've always.
Man.
So
right.
on the 3rd of July 2010, I'll tell the
the
story. 3rd of July 2010, in the Navy, we don't hire security guards. What we have is called duty sections, where you're in duty section 1 through 5, and when you're on duty 24 hours, and it's your job to be like the cop or the security guard for the base. I had duty on July 3rd, which means you get off of work at 5 o'clock in the morning the following day. So me and this girl, working the night shift was me, this girl, and a married chick. And me and the married chick were really good friends.
Right.
Nothing sexual, just really good friends. And then me and this girl, she was really cute, and I was into her, but I wasn't pursuing anything. So we're working all night together, just walking around guarding the building. And our base was on the Atlantic Ocean. So we had our own private beach on our military base. It was actually really cool. So we start talking all night, and it's like, hey, how about tomorrow when we get off, we go to the store on base, pick up a case of beer, and let's just watch the sunrise over the ocean and just get hammered. It's 4th of July, why not? So
That sounds like a date, but okay.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was pushing for. It worked out way better than I
I
expected.
took Woody Cooper.
And there was a hotel, the base hotel was right on the beach. So we go out and we start drinking right when we get off of work at 5. So we're on the beach at like 5:15, just slugging beers down. And it gets to be about 6:30 and we're feeling good, and she looks at me and goes, "Hey, do you have your wallet on you?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "You want to go get a hotel room real quick?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. That would be really cool. That's a great idea."
Yeah.
So I do actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Let's do it. Okay.
So we literally go.
You fucking turned Canadian all of a sudden. Like, I like what you're talking about. Yeah, let's
Oh, yeah.
go, eh?
Yeah. So we go. I go get a hotel room. We literally pound it out. And then we come back. We left our cooler and everything out on the beach because we had friends who were coming to join us. Our friends were already there drinking our beer and shit by the time we got back. But it wasn't like this is the start of a relationship. It was just like two people wanted to fuck, got it out of their system. And it was like dope. So we're there all morning, and it's like 10:30. And the married chick who I was on duty with the night before, she came and joined us because we were talking about it. And so now we have like 15 people. And the married chick's like, "Hey, Paul, one of our mutual friends' sons was having a birthday on July 4th. She goes, "Do you want to go to me?" She's like, "No." She goes, "Do you want to go with me to his place?" And by this time, I'm good and drunked up. I got laid. It's a great day. And I'm like, I look at the girl and I'm like, "Do you care if I go?" She's like she gave me that like, "Bitch, we're not dating. Do whatever you want. I already got laid this morning." And I'm like, "Cool. I don't want to hang out with you anyway." So me and this married chick, we hop in her station wagon. And we hop in her station wagon, and we go, and she's like, "Hey, I got to pick up a cake." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So she stops at Kroger, and she's like, "Do you want to come in?" I'm like, "I think I'm a little too intoxicated for public right now. I'll just hang out in the car." She's like, "All right." She comes back, throws the cake in the back. We get in the station wagon, and she drives, like the loading docks in the back of a grocery store? Like you could drive behind it? She starts driving that way, and I'm thinking, I've never been to dude's house before. Maybe he lives on a side road behind the thing. And she rolls up behind a dumpster where like it's the vision's all covered, and she puts the car in park, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she just reaches over, unzips my pants, and we start fucking in the car. And I'm fucking this married chick, and I just remember being drunk like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" like this is unreal. So we bang. Then we go to the party. We go to the party. We have at the party. My ex-wife, this is in the period when we were dating and on again, off again. At this time, we were broken up. Like, we broke up like a week and a half prior to it. And
we were on a break.
We were broken up. So I go to the party. We come back, and like everybody's like, I've been drinking all day. And we got back at like 3:30, 4 o'clock because the married chick had to go and pick somebody up from the airport. I can't remember who. And I got back to base at 3:30, and I just remember being like, "I'm so fucking drunk. I don't care about fireworks. I need to go sleep. I need to go sleep this drunk off." So I go, and as soon as my head hits the pillow, my phone starts bing, 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 ringing like crazy. And I pick up the phone, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you need to get down to the beach right now. Your girl's going crazy." And I didn't know the number. I didn't know who was calling me. It was a guy though. And I'm like, who's at the beach? Like, "Dude, your girl's going fucking buck wild. You need to get down here." And I'm like, "My girl? What the fuck?" So I get out of bed and I stumble drunk and do the walk 5 minutes over to the fucking beach. And there's my soon-to-be ex-wife, ass naked, running up and down the beach, hammered off her ass, drunk, and like all of our mutual friends are like making fun of her, but she's so fucking drunk she doesn't know what she's doing, and she's hitting on everybody like crazy. And like I get there, and as soon as she sees me, "You fucking asshole," like yelling at me, and I'm like, I just got here, and I just got woken up out of bed. Like, why did somebody call me for you? We're not dating anymore. Like, leave me alone. And I go over, and then finally I get to the point where I start feeling bad for her because she's making that much of an ass of herself. Where like I get a blanket, I cover her, we sit down, and we just talk for hours. And it gets to the point where like everybody's going to a party off base at one of the girls' house, and the girl walks up and goes, "Paul, we're going to a party at my house. If you guys want to come, you guys should come over whenever you're ready." And like I'm okay. And by this time it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I'm sobered up. I haven't been drinking. And like me and her are just on the beach, and she's like she's crying. She's like, "I love you. I want to be with you." And I'm like, I did care about her too. I loved her too. So I'm like, you know what? We just need to sober up right now. Let's go for a swim in the ocean. We get in the Atlantic, and then we fucked in the ocean. And then like we got done. We drove over to our friend's
I don't like
house.
the story anymore.
We drove over to our friend's house. Well, there's one more sexual encounter, but it's the same girl. It's not third. It's not a fourth. It's a third. We drove over to the friend's house, and I walked in, and I'm all covered in sand, because I just got done having beach sex. I'm like, "Hey, my friend, can I use your shower?" She's like, "Yeah, go ahead. Towels are here, blah, blah, blah." So I go in, close the door, turn the water on, and I'm there, and the shower's running, and I hear the door open to the bathroom. And I'm like, "Hello?" And it's my soon-to-be ex-wife. She's like, "Can I take a shower?" And then we had sex in the shower. That's the story. Sorry.
And it was at that point Paul said I need to put a ring on it.
It was about a month later.
Best decision you ever made.
It was about a month later. She brought a pregnancy test that said positive to me. So yeah, you're not too far off.
I love all you guys. I really do. Like I would fucking lay down in traffic for any one of you. But I have to say this, and myself included, the thought of any of us having sex just makes my fucking stomach turn. It's fucking disgusting. Just start.
There's nothing attractive happening here.
To me, it's not about making people feel comfortable. To me, it's about funny, and that is funny.
It is funny. So,
I looked a lot different back then too.